Hello, my name is Masha and I'm obsessed with friendship bracelets. I started making friendship bracelets way back in like 2009, which makes me feel extremely old when I realized that that was 11 years ago. And I've definitely noticed how the bracelet making community has changed and evolved in the years. Trends come and go, platforms change, the way that people share information changes. Instagram has blown up somewhat recently in the recent years in terms of friendship bracelets and stuff. But throughout all of that, there seem to be some bracelets that remain classic. And I'm using that term very loosely because you will notice that some of the bracelets that I'm going to show were popular like way back 11 years ago. Some of them only became popular in the recent like 2 years. So the word classic is very loose. It's by my own interpretation. I jotted down some ideas on my own, and then I also asked you guys over on Instagram, which you should follow me on if you don't already, for ideas of what you consider to be classic bracelets, and I basically used my input and input from other people to come up with this weird list. And I thought it would be fun to tier rank them based on absolutely nothing at all, just my own opinions, which you may or may not agree with. So let's first go over the bracelets that I have chosen. All the pictures that I'm using in this video were provided to me by you with permission. So thank you very much to everyone who did respond when I asked for pictures, but let's go over them. So first up, we've got the Arrowhead, the Dovetail, the Braided Stitch, the Candy Stripe, the Chevron, the Fishbone Chevron, the Greek Waves, the Simple Heart, the Plaid, the Starburst, and the Yin Yang bracelets. Alright, so now that these are introduced, let's have a look at our tier ranking. I didn't do anything fancy here. We've got the classic S to D tier list, S being the best and D being the worst. Pretty sure I'm not gonna put anything in D, but let's start, I guess. Before I start, I'm gonna make an obvious statement of all of what I say is entirely my own opinion. You can have a completely different opinion to mine, and that's okay. But there's no need to be nasty to me or to anybody else in the comments who might have a different opinion to yours. Thank you for being respectful. Let's continue. The Arrowhead. I don't think the Arrowhead really needs an introduction. It is pretty much uncontested as a classic. I think everyone really considered that. I think everyone really considers the Arrowhead as a classic. There are so many different variations of the Arrowhead. The double Arrowhead, the reversed double Arrowhead where one's going in one direction, the other goes in the other. There's different Arrowheads with different numbers of, you know, the diamonds of a single color. There's Arrowheads with different shapes. There's so many different varieties of the Arrowhead. The Arrowhead is definitely one of the top. I'm not gonna put it in S tier, at least yet. There might be some rearranging after. I'm gonna put it in A tier for now because it's definitely super high up on the list, but I'm not sure what I want to put on the S tier yet, if anything, really. The Dovetail. The Dovetail might be contested as a classic. To my knowledge, it only really became popular about 2 years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong in that, but that is when I personally started seeing it pop up more on Instagram. I quite enjoy the Dovetail. I've made a tutorial on it, as with the Arrowhead, as with really basically all of the bracelets on this list, but I've done a tutorial on it. It's much easier than it looks. I think a lot of people think it looks really complicated and don't attempt it. It's much easier than it looks, and if you've made a couple of bracelets before, I definitely recommend trying it. I think it's a good one. I'm gonna put it on A tier as well. I really like this one. I think it's really easy to make, and it looks awesome, and it's been around for a while, and people seem to love it. The Braided Stitch. Definitely a classic as well. Definitely one that's been around for ages. There's different varieties of it. There's like a leaf variety where like you don't make some of the knots and it just kind of looks like squares. You can make them with borders, like outlines for the stitch bits. This is definitely a bracelet that I remember making way back in the day in like 2009, 2010 as like one of the first bracelets ever, but I'm not super passionate about it. Like I'm just kind of about it. It's just average for me, you know, like it's neither here nor there. I'm gonna put it on B. I don't have strong feelings on it either way. I don't love it, I don't hate it, so it's very much average for me. I'm gonna put it there. The Candy Stripe. I don't like the Candy Stripe. I really don't. I'm not even gonna hide it. A lot of people love it. A lot of people make it as their first bracelet. I was one of those people. I made the Candy Stripe as my first bracelet. I made a lot of Candy Stripes in my time, but I really don't love it. I'm not even gonna pretend. I'm not even gonna pretend. I really don't love it. I, to this day, struggle with my forward and backward knots and keeping them consistent, because when I started out, I only made candy stripes with forward knots, and I practiced my forward knots so much when I was making those candy stripes because I spent months before I realized that you can do anything else. I spent so much making forward knots that by the time I started to learn backward knots, like, I was so not used to doing them that they were completely different. They looked completely different, and it took me so long to get my forward and my backward knots to look at least somewhat similar. I really don't like the candy stripe. I don't recommend starting with it. I definitely recommend starting with the chevron, which is a bit more difficult because it uses two different types of knots, but because it uses two different types of knots, you get used to making both forward and backward knots as you're making the bracelet, which is why I recommend it as the first one, because then you get used to them at the same time and they're on the same level for you. You don't have the feeling that one is better for you than the other. I really don't like the candy stripe. I don't think I'm gonna put it in D tier. I'm gonna put it in C though, because I really like it. No, you know what? It deserves to be in D. I don't ever want to see anyone making candy stripes unless you like them. You know what? Like, if you like how candy stripes look, go ahead and go for it. But I just really don't like the fact that people push candy stripes as the first bracelet to make when the chevron is so much better, in my opinion. I'm gonna put it in D. I haven't made a candy stripe since. They're really uncomfortable to make as well because they keep twisting, and people comment under my videos all the time like, oh no, my candy stripe is twisting, what do I do? Nothing, you can't do anything. It's just the structure of the knots. That's how your bracelet is. I mean, you can sort of like stretch it out against like a corner of a table or something, or just iron it out to make it not twist, but because of the knot structure, it does that. And it's not you, and people start thinking that, oh, there's something wrong with me because I'm making it wrong. No, it's not. It's just the knot structure. And because of the shape of the candy stripe, like the knots are low, like down below, you end up pulling on them a lot. At least in my experience, I pull on the knots that are lower more than I do on the ones that are higher, so they end up being uneven, and it's just a whole mess. Like, I don't mess with candy stripes to this. Like, I consider myself to be pretty good at bracelets. Like, I make difficult bracelets and I'm fine, and I'm really happy with the quality that they produce. I still struggle with candy stripes. Candy stripes deserve to be in D, in my opinion. Next up, we've got chevrons, which I'm much happier about. The chevron, the classic chevron, is what I recommend to start off with. I mean, I already talked about this, but that's because you already make the backward and the forward knot at the same time. But at the same time, I don't have like strong opinions on it really either way. It's gonna go with the braided stitch. I quite like it. I think it's a great bracelet to make, especially as your first bracelet, but I don't really care for it that much. Like, apart from making it just to figure out how to make it, I don't think it looks that amazing. Like, it's great as a starter bracelet, but then you can expand and do so much more. There's different varieties of the chevron that you can do. So I'm gonna put it in B. I don't have strong opinions about it either way, really. The fishbone chevron, on the other hand, is a variety of the chevron, right? As I said, there's different varieties of the chevron that you can make that look much more visually appealing. The fishbone chevron, I think, looks really cool. In fact, the fishbone chevron was the first English-speaking tutorial that I did on this channel. It was the first video that I did on this channel when I came back as Masha Knots. You might know that I started in Russian like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and then I came back 2 years ago as Masha Knots in English with that video. The fishbone chevron has become like such a classic for me personally because it was like the first video that I did as Masha Knots in English. It's like the foundation of my channel, so I'm gonna put it on the S tier. I'm gonna put it there. I really love this bracelet. I think it's really cool. It's super simple to make. There's literally only 2 steps to it, one of which is the regular chevron, which is super easy to make, so there's only one step that's like difficult, and it's not even that difficult. And it's just such a classic to me personally. I warned you, this tier list is gonna be super biased. For me personally, the fishbone chevron is S tier. Fishbone chevron is right up there. It's the top for me. The Greek Waves bracelet. I don't know how I feel about the Greek Waves bracelet. I haven't made that many. I made a couple when I was starting out, like again back in 2009, 2010. I did a couple. It's kind of one of those bracelets that you can't really segment knot properly because I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's a bit weird. There's not too many like big chunks of knots that you have to do one after the other, so you can't really segment knot it that well. It's definitely a classic. Like, it is a classic, like way back when it used to be one of the most popular patterns in like 2009, 2010. Like, I definitely remember seeing so many photos of that pattern, and it's still pretty popular to this day, I believe. Like, I see a lot of people still making and wearing them. Personally, I don't have that much attachment to it. Like, I don't really care for it either way. I'm gonna put it in B because it just gives me the same vibes as the chevron and the braided stitch. Like, they're good bracelets, they're cool. A lot of people like them. I just don't really care for them either way, so that seems right to me. Same for the heart, to be honest. Like, it's a really cool bracelet, don't get me wrong. Plus, it's like easy to do. So it's a fun bracelet to make like when you're just starting out, especially if you want to make it for like Valentine's Day or for someone that you love. Like it's a really cool bracelet to make. I haven't made many of them since I made it the first time. Like I've done it for a tutorial, I've done it a couple of times before then. Don't really care for it, like either way. It's a cool bracelet, but I don't care for it, so it's just gonna be B. It's pretty average to me. It's like neither here nor there. I don't actively despise it as the candy stripe, but I also, it's just there. There's gonna be a lot of B's here. The plaid, I like the plaid. I made a bunch of those again back in the day. I haven't made any since really, but I made a bunch of those back in the day. I used to think that they were the coolest thing because I love the way that they look. I still to this day think that they look really cool, but they are just kind of, I don't know, tedious to make because of those like individual knots. You can't really segment knot it well. You have to keep switching the string that you're using because there's individual knots. So it's just kind of tedious to make. I still think it looks really cool, but I don't see myself ever really making one again. So yeah, it's just gonna inhabit the B slot, the B. There's a lot of bracelets that I'm just kind of very average about. That's surprising to me. I didn't know how this was gonna go, but I didn't expect it to be like this. The Starburst, on the other hand. Yeah, the Starburst is going all the way to S tier. The Starburst to me is like on a similar level to the Fishbone Chevron. I really love the Starburst. In fact, whenever I have a bracelet slump, when I'm not like that into making bracelets and I feel like I just kind of am meh about the whole hobby entirely, I force myself to make a Starburst and then I feel much better because I love the Starburst. I really enjoy making it. I think it's a really awesome pattern, it looks cool, and it's really fun to make. I also have a tutorial on that if you want to see it. I have a tutorial on the majority of the bracelets here. I'll leave them all linked in the description. But yeah, I just love it a lot. I think it's a really cool bracelet and it's very special to me. I'm still working on my collection of them. I have 3 so far. I've made a red one, a blue one, and a purple one, but I'm really enjoying it. And finally, we've got the Yin Yang bracelet, which I was surprised when the way I got these photos is I posted on Instagram and I asked you guys to send me pictures, and the rest of the bracelets on this list I got a lot of pictures for. The Yin Yang bracelet, I only got like 2 or 3, which I was really surprised by. Apparently, this was definitely really popular back in the day, like 2009, 2010, when I was just starting out. This was a really, really popular bracelet to make. I remember seeing a ton of pictures for it all over the internet. Apparently, it's not anymore. People don't make it that much anymore, which I'm genuinely surprised by. I thought more people would make it. I personally don't really care for it. The design is cool. I love the way it looks. It's really sort of, again, classic, I think, but I don't really like how the knots are structured. There's like a backward forward knot on the edge, but it's in the opposite direction that you need it to be for the straight edge technique, so it kind of creates an indent in the bracelet, and it's just like one of those bracelets that you can't really segment knot well. So with that and the fact that it's just like not really popular nowadays, and even when it was, I didn't really care for it that much. I only really saw people make it. I never really made it myself. It's gonna go in C tier for me, finally filling that slot. So yeah, this is what the tier list looks like for me. I'm surprised. I thought there would be more in A than there are. I didn't expect B to be the majority, although it makes sense. It's kind of like, you know, a bell curve, kind of. But that was interesting. I've never done a tier video before. In fact, I've never done a tier list in my life, really. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you want me to make a tier list video on. But yeah, this was an interesting video. I feel like I learned something about myself that I didn't know before. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you want more content from me, I have a second channel on which I post videos about whatever I feel like. I'll link my most recent video in the card and in the description. I also stream on Twitch pretty regularly. I try to do that about twice a week. So you should follow me on there to get a notification when I go live. I want to give a special shout out to my patrons before I go, and especially my top supporters whose names are gonna appear on screen right now. Thank you very much for your support. If you also want to become a patron, there is a link in the description where you can sign up and get exclusive perks for your donations. In any case, thank you very much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!